Okay, hello and welcome everybody to Objects Unknown. I'm Terry McMahon and I'm so glad you're here. I am the founder of Objects Unknown and so privileged to be a part of this research effort, and I'm just so glad you're here because what we have to show you today we feel is could be quite groundbreaking. I know this is a big statement you're reading here, but I believe we may have discovered the first undeniable photographic evidence of current life on Mars. Yep, I know that's a big statement that requires big evidence. And I think we've got the beginning of it right here. First, let me just tell you a little bit about who we are, and I'm going to get right to the image right after. But we're Objects Unknown, and what we do, we research the possibility of an extraterrestrial presence in our solar system. We like to say without all the conspiracy theories and nonsense, which are so a part of this kind of research effort. You see, what we do, we research only mission image archives, largely from NASA, but some others too, from all the missions, from the early missions from Ranger, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, of course, to Shuttle, ISS, Mars rover, SOHO, and beyond. The reason we do that, because researching those image archives, one thing we know, we've overcome the first hurdle, and that's they can't be photoshopped, and these aren't fake images. Now, as to what's in them, or if anything is in them, that's up for debate, of course. But that's why we do what we do, and we try to approach this kind of with a common sense approach. This is an amateur research effort, which I don't think lessens it in any way, but we're pretty straightforward with it, and we try to use some experiential common sense how we assess things. We try not to just see bunnies in clouds, and we try not to see people in rocks and things like that. We try to look at things that are very clear and very straightforward, and today is probably the example of one of the best and clearest straightforward photographic evidence I think I've ever seen. Before we get to the image, I want to tell you what happened and why we're here today. I apologize for the kind of unorganized, shoddy quality production of this video, but we really wanted to get this out really, really quick, and I'll tell you why later, because we need your help to help us find something. So we wanted to get it out now. Here's what happened. About 5 years ago, I was going through the Curiosity rover images on NASA's site, of which there are so many thousands, and it was between Sol 1 and Sol 600. I came across an image. It was kind of really almost a throwaway image in a larger group of images of just kind of just random quick shots that Curiosity was taking that day. And I came across an image of just the generic rock littered, cold, harsh desert floor on Mars, and there was an object smack dab in the middle of it that just shouted, "I am life. I am a life form, currently, right now." Got very excited about it. I bookmarked the page. I took some snapshots of it, and I was going to do a production on it. Then, wouldn't you know it, a couple days later, my computer crashed, and guess what? I didn't back up. Yep, I didn't back up those images. Could not believe it. Spent a long time trying to re-find that image and could not find it. And today I was researching another actual lunar object from one of the mission archives, and I went to a site called Extreme Zoom online. I thought, well, maybe I'll use this tool to see if I can get a clearer zoom over and above the browser I'm using. Went there and realized I had an account already. Oh, that's good. So I went ahead and logged in, and there was one image in that account. Lo and behold, guess what it was? It was that lost image I was looking for Curiosity rover, and I found it, and I was so thrilled I did tonight. I've done a little work, what I want to show you, but I think we have something really straightforward, and I think we have something that will demand attention from those, from professional people in the sciences to look at this object, because it has all the earmarks of "I am life." And that's why we're so excited about it, because if we found some evidence of existing life on Mars that's accepted by those who are paid to look at these things and do look at these things, then we've also found some of the first evidence, if not the first, that could be accepted for extraterrestrial life. I know it's a big claim. Let's get to it and see what you think. We believe here is life on Mars. Let's go to the original photo from NASA. Boom, here we are. Okay, just take a moment to take a look at this while I take a sip of coffee, okay? Hopefully you've seen it by now. Let's take a look. You see a bunch of rocks. You see a rock ridge in the distance here. Pretty littered, some interesting rocks to be sure, but then you have this object here, and I'm certain you see it, and hopefully you see what is pretty clear to us. What are we looking at here? This looks like life. Now, does it look like maybe a hardy desert plant or a hardy desert alien cactus? Perhaps. If you notice here, it's got this kind of shell or husk. It's hollowed out in the middle. Clearly, you see the shade on the ground, and it appears there's something different inside of it. But if you just look at this, it looks like it almost is a symbiotic kind of plant. It's the only analog to something we can think here on Earth, with little things living on top of it. It has little curlicues of fiber kind of things on top of it. And over to the right, almost like some hanging moss. I mean, these are just terms we use just so you can relate what it looks like. Little filaments, fibers. And it's what's inside of this, for lack of a better term, husk or shell, that's amazing as well. Let's get a close-up view on it and look at it together. I did some contrast work and clarity work just to draw out some of the detail. Look what we've got. Okay, this is the object. This is the view you were seeing it from before. You see it, just look at that for a second. Now, that obviously looks like a living thing. Now, if we zoom in on it and take a look at it, look at what we have here. Now, it appears this is some kind of fibrous, undulating material that looks like it had been living or is alive. Like a husk. I keep going back to cactus-type substance or fiber, perhaps. It's got these little things on top of it, these little curlicues, and you can see that these fibers or strands I was talking about here down to the size, they look like living things. We are not looking, I don't believe, at a rock, or what is just commonly referred to as Mars has interesting, in quotes, geology. I think we're looking at something pretty straightforward, and it's what's inside that is really turning us all on. And it's this. Do you see this, here again, for lack of better terms to describe it, this starfish-like kind of tubular creature, perhaps? Or if maybe a good analogy is like coral. Do you see these little tubes here, opening to tubes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I believe 7 around the larger hole? There's a lot of symmetry there, and if you look at it just for a moment, you'll see it looks like some type of living thing. And I'll try to zoom in as quick as we can. Now, I'll go to another enhancement that we have right up here. If you take a look at this, and this is pretty amazing. If I do just a little bit of adjustment on it, you'll see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to just adjust the exposure and the highlights a little bit, and we even get a little more detail out of it. Check this out. Just a little bit of enhancement here. Yeah, right there. You can see we have a bit more to look at. This is an amazing object, whatever it is. We'll go to another viewpoint over here. We'll look at some of the contrast we'll take out of it, and we'll up the exposure slightly to see what we're looking at. Clearly, we're looking at something that is in this larger object, whatever it is. I wonder if also what we're looking at here is this little object in front that maybe looks just kind of a little rock formation. It almost makes me wonder if what's on the ground here is actually what's inside here that's come out. Maybe this thing, if it is a creature, I think maybe it is, maybe it makes its way along the Martian floor, and these things are left behind. Who knows? That's just, just guessing, of course. But clearly what we're looking at here is some kind of complex living thing on Mars, and I'm sure you can see it in the detail that we're looking at it. You can look at this thing for a long, long time. There's a lot to look at, and especially as we get the contrast better and draw out some of the features. What are we looking at? I think very possibly we're looking at some of the first real, straightforward evidence for something alive on Mars. A plant? It's an animal? A little bit of both? Who knows? Those are all questions we can't answer today. But this really appears to be some kind of life form different from the entire rocky environment on Mars. And we've looked at a lot on Mars, and this just looks like a living thing. And I think as we go deeper into the detail, I think we're going to be able to draw out some features that can really point to that. And I think what should happen here, we're going to get this out to a lot of few universities. We're going to talk to NASA about it, get it to them. Maybe they saw it, or maybe they just shrugged and said, look, we'll see what people think. We don't know what it is. But if they've looked at their own photographs, I'm sure they've seen this. I would imagine. I could be wrong. But we're going to get as much feedback on this as possible, because I think this demands to be looked at by serious scientists, people who are paid to do this kind of thing. And I don't think, I'm sure at first they're going to say, oh yeah, just another one of those pictures where somebody sees a condominium. I think they're going to look at this and go, oh, what is that? Oh, can you zoom in on that, please? Gee, that looks like life. It sure does, doesn't it? And I think this demands to be, at least to be investigated in a serious way. I don't know what more serious information or images NASA or any other group would want. This satisfies, I think, some of the requirements to at least investigate. We may have found life here. How exciting is this, everyone? Thank you for being here. Tell us what you think. I'm sure there'll be a big debate about it, but I think we're looking at life. I'm Terry McMahon. This is Objects Unknown. We'll talk to you soon.